If you're not willing to do the hard work, to shirk the corporate donors in service of everyday people, then how can you call yourself a representative? I will fight for peace and against endless war, for our collective humanity and against our collective demise, even when my persistence bought, and yes, I said bought, my successor the seat with a whole lot of Republican money.
Not going away quietly, Representative Cori Bush will soon be leaving Congress after losing in a heavily, really record-funded Democratic primary to Wesley Bell. Now she's reflecting on her time in office, and in an interview with Politico, she had some choice words for the Democratic Party. And I want to get into the details of that, Cenk, but what do you make, your initial reaction to her candor? I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but what she's saying in particular now.
Yeah, so I think that as we go through what she said, you'll see that it's a little conflicted. And so hence I agree with some of it really strongly, and I'm really glad she said some of the things that she said. On the other stuff that leads in my opinion, the wrong direction, I go, did we really learn the right lessons? And I talked to Cori after she lost, and I'll give you that perspective too. So let's tell folks all what she said, and then I'll come back and analyze what I thought was right and wrong.
Okay, so she was asked about the massive amount of money that was spent against her during the primary, particularly by AIPAC, pro-Israel group that targeted progressives across the country. Politico asked, AIPAC spent at least $8 million to defeat you. Do you wish Democratic leaders had done more to keep the group out of primaries this year or lend you more support? Representative Bush, absolutely. She went on to say this, though. At this point, yes, and looking forward, Democratic leadership has to do something. Democratic leadership must make the decision that this corporate money should not be able to be used in Democratic primaries, because that was the deciding factor in this race. Democrats have to ban corporate PAC donations, specifically, have to speak up and push to ban the super PAC spending in our Democratic primaries. That is the only way that this does not happen again, because I wasn't unseated because I didn't take care of my community. She was also critical of the Democratic Party's obsession with hierarchy and waiting your turn. Politico says, what's something you wish you had known going into the job? Bush says, I think that understanding how seniority plays so much of a role in who gets what committee assignments, what bills are brought to the floor, just in so many different areas. How seniority plays such a major role. We have great people in the Congress who just sometimes in my conversations, I hear this disillusionment, and some of it is because people are waiting their turn. They have great ideas, and they're really remarkable in the work that they're doing. And we need those voices to be representative. We see in the Republican conference, they don't seem to go by seniority as much. I think that the Democrats, we need to pay attention to that. And finally asked if she has any regrets about her time in Congress, Bush said this: I don't really operate in regret, but I will say I wish that I could have pushed harder as it relates to our ceasefire now resolution and done more to save lives. I probably could have flipped over a few more tables. So real housewife style, I guess, that last part. She says she should have done more to be disruptive. What are your takeaways from this? The one that jumps out to me the most is about seniority and the waiting your turn thing, which always I think is crazy when you're working on behalf of the people. You're duly elected to get some things done and represent us. I don't understand it, but that's just me. What do you see initially?
Yeah, so here's the parts that I love. So she should have turned over more tables. Couldn't agree more. And when she did turn over the table on the eviction moratorium, it worked. That was when she went out and did this protest on the street, on the steps of the Capitol, and that was incredibly effective. They should have done that again and again and again, strategically, of course, and know when to pick your spots. But just doing it once was better than 99% of Congress. So give her tremendous credit for that. But I wish they had done it far more. And so her saying, "Look, these seats are bought," totally agree with it. I think that there should be a lot more voices saying that. And then her pointing out not only the role of corporate PACs and super PACs in the primaries, but saying that we should insist that they not be allowed in Democratic primaries because they skew the field so you don't get to see what the voters actually think. And the AIPAC example is a perfect one because they didn't run ads saying Cori Bush is in favor of saving Palestinian lives, or even like frame it in the most positive light for Israel. They didn't say, oh, she's betraying Israel and is an anti-Semite. No, they didn't run any of those ads. They ran ads that were about completely different topics because they know that the pro-Israel position is unpopular in our district. So they hammered her on other things to try to distract people. But their real goal was eliminate an opponent of Israel inside the US Congress. So she's just saying that. In the old days, you couldn't say that, even though it was patently obvious. You would get smeared, but here she already lost the race. So what's the difference? But she was saying it before she lost the race. So those are all the great things that I'm glad she's pointing out and are totally correct. So on the thing that you mentioned there, Sharon, on seniority, and then as you read the quote about the colleagues, that's where I have a little bit of concern. Why? Am I in favor of protecting seniority inside the Democratic caucus? No, of course not. I hate the system that they have, and I'm glad that she's challenging it in some way. But I think that it's slightly, or maybe significantly, misunderstands the core of the problem. Like, I don't mind addressing seniority, and I like that AOC ran for the Oversight Committee. I like that Raskin won on running for the Judiciary Committee, and those are younger folks way better at making our case than some of the 70, 80-year-old Democrats. But the reason why the more senior people are in charge is not because of like House rules or Senate rules or politeness or this or that, or how they just love process. No, it's because the older members are more corrupt, and they've taken combined billions and billions of dollars from corporate PACs, and they serve those corporate PACs as the heads of those committees. You can't put someone who is a Just Democrat who doesn't take corporate PAC money as a head of a committee, because they won't serve the corporation that committee is regulating. So that's the real problem. But even at this late date, even after she lost, she's saying positive things about her colleagues because she's saying, oh, we were misunderstood and we actually worked well with our colleagues. I know, but that's the problem. You shouldn't have worked well with your colleagues. You should have turned over way more tables. Your colleagues are corrupt. And if you guys had done an organized campaign around that brought the right amount of spotlight to it, you would have been folk heroes. And so I know it's hard for them to see that. I know it's super hard to execute. I know I'm asking a lot, but that was the original idea behind Just Democrats. And if they had done that, none of them would have lost. It would have been much more painful though. It would have been a harder process. I totally acknowledge that. You would have had all of mainstream attack you. You would have had every kind of media attack you, right? But that's what leaders do. So I wish she'd done a little bit more of that. But overall though, this message is really well received by me. There's a lot of good lessons that she learned in there. And so I hope she makes a comeback in that sense.
Yeah, I do too. One other thing that kind of jumped out at me was that I felt like she could have been harder on, it's not that they didn't push for her Democratic leadership. There's been enough written, and I buy into it, that they too wanted her out of there, okay? I didn't see, Hakeem Jeffries and people campaigning for her. It was as if they did more than just look the other way. Am I wrong to think that maybe she could have blasted him one more time, called him out one more time on her way out?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm afraid that she's thinking of running again at some point, and so she doesn't want to blast her colleagues too much. Because to be fair to her, they will use that against her in the next campaign. Oh, it doesn't work well with the Democratic Party. I wonder if she's a Republican. That's the kind of stuff mainstream media and the Democratic Party does 24/7, and I loathe it. But that's why they need strategy. They need to be able to get together and be a coalition, and yes, a badass one that is willing to challenge their colleagues very, very significantly. So to be fair to Cori, it's not just on Cori, right? Did all the Just Democrats coalesce and have a real strategy inside the Progressive Caucus? No. Did Raskin, Porter, and other good people inside Congress rally around them and back what they were doing and create leverage so they could have the same kind of leverage that Manchin and Sinema did in the negotiations? No. They left Cori, Jamaal Bowman, and the others out on their own to vote no on a bad bill. they were right about, if they had all joined together, they would, especially in the beginning, they would have had enough leverage to make a difference and maybe get us paid family leave or higher minimum wage. But for that to happen, they've got to realize that their beloved colleagues are not their friends. Those are the guys who are constantly attacking them behind the scenes and trying to make sure that they lose. They're your political opponents. You have to realize that, and you have to coalesce. If you don't work together as the progressives in Congress, and you don't have a unified strategy because everybody's worried about one person being a leader and it not being them, then you're never going to win. You're going to disperse into the wind. So I hope to God that they take some of the stuff that she said to heart for the folks that are still left in Congress, and that they find a way forward that actually can use their power better than they used it the first time around.
Yeah, it'd be a good blueprint, a new improved blueprint for them moving forward. I hope she comes back in some form, I do.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.